Hello everyone and welcome to the Smashy Business Show. Today is Wednesday, April 9, 2025. I'm Abdul Majid Awan.
And I'm Ward Ahmed, and we have a great show for you today. Now, for our headlines, firstly, we're going to be discussing how His Highness Sheikh Hamdan, the Crown Prince of Dubai, has visited India as trade booms between the two countries. And secondly, Middle Eastern stock markets have actually returned back to green just yesterday. And thirdly, Aquila Group is to open a Middle East office in Abu Dhabi. And finally, Saudi MBC Group has appointed a new CEO, Mike Sneesby. So there's a lot of changes going on right now.
And before we begin, Ward has a very interesting story to tell.
Oh yeah,
about Calo.
I was actually just telling Majid just this morning. I was listening to this podcast, and it's called Solif Business, and it's a Saudi podcast, and it was just so interesting because basically it was about Calo, and if you don't know Calo, basically they deliver like very healthy meal plans, and what distinguishes Calo is they're one of the first to do it in the Middle East, and they're also one of the best to do it. And what also makes them very unique is that you can actually choose your meals. You can choose your macros, your protein content, your fiber, your carbohydrates. But beside the point, it was founded in Bahrain by 2019 by Ahmed and Muayyad. And as I'm saying 2019, it sounds so far away to me, Majid, right now. But point is, it was just so interesting because you know what they basically did. So it actually started off with Ahmed. Ahmed came up with the idea of Calo, and Muayyad, he just actually stepped in later to invest into it.
Nice.
That's how it actually went, and what they basically first did, and I just found it so interesting because I would honestly never think of this. They didn't actually rent out a kitchen. To actually save money, they rented out a bowling alley, and in this bowling alley, it wasn't actually doing well. This bowling alley, they had really bad business, they weren't making profit, and so they were like, okay, there's opportunity here. Why don't we actually rent out the bowling alley's kitchen? And so what they did was they actually started out first by selling Calo to people who are just coming to play there, and also delivering it at the same time. And I just thought to myself, that's so smart, to take a place just so you can get a cheaper kitchen and just so you can start operations. And for me, like Majid, when you take a look at a story like this, and it's so interesting because I think it was Muayyad, but he's already invested in a bunch of businesses.
Nice.
So it's not like they're not well off, but it's that ability to think smart, to not start off and be so great so quickly and expense so much, but actually save expenses in such a smart way like this. So I just found that really interesting, and I believe the amount of investment that they actually started out with was $20,000 to $30,000. So that's about like 70,000 dirhams. So it was really interesting to take a look at it.
Yeah.
I think
it's a nice story, and it's the main thing again for these startups is they find a problem and they find a solution.
Oh my God!
Whatever solution they find, they just start. At least start.
Majid,
lesson,
you
right?
actually reminded me of something else really interesting that they actually put into perspective. For me, I found it really strange how they almost described like business as if it was like a hypothesis. Like, when you're coming to do a science experiment and you have your hypothesis, your controlled variables, your independent variable, that's the way that they put it. They said that when I came up with, I think it was Ahmed, when I came up with Calo, the first thing that I did was I kind of put out a hypothesis. I tested it out. I went around to people. Is this something that you're actually going to put your money into? And for me, it's almost kind of this really deep revelation that for you to have that successful business, it almost needs to be like a science experiment that's either going to really succeed or really fail. So
you have a word for it, that the product should be market fit. So, and his hypothesis, he tested it out, and it's a very nice idea, which a lot of entrepreneurs also say that whenever you think of anything, any product or any new idea, test it out with your friends, family, your inner circle, because usually those are the people that will give you the most brutal, honest reaction on it.
I don't always think though, by the way. Family can lie to you.
Yeah, family will be like, oh, no, do it. But at least your friends, the childhood friends who know you, they'll at least give you an honest opinion that, oh, we think it's nice.
Yeah.
Maybe do it. And in your friends and family, also find people who are your target audience eventually. So if you have a brand which is for like very it's very cheap and everyone can afford it, go to friends who don't have a lot of money. Because for them, it will be like, oh, this is a cheap thing, we won't buy it, we buy luxury.
And imagine just last year, Callo actually delivered about 10 million meals.
Nice.
Right now, they're not just operating in Bahrain, they're operating in Kuwait, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and they're actually planning for a Saudi IPO by 2027. So that is something there to keep your eye out for. And 2027 is not that far.
Hey.
It truly is. It's not that
years
far.
Past like days right now. But yeah, let's go back to His Highness Sheikh Hamdan. After this interesting story, it's a very interesting visit. It's day 2 of His Highness Sheikh Hamdan's official visit to India. The Crown Prince of Dubai touched down in New Delhi on Tuesday, April 8, yesterday. On his first day, he held a high-level meeting with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Now, the two leaders discussed the growing strategic partnership between the UAE and India, with a particular focus on trade and investment. Now, according to India's Prime Minister, their talks centered around strengthening the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, also known as CEPA, which has played a key role in elevating bilateral trade ties.
And CEPA came into effect on May 1, 2022. Really interestingly, the first ever CEPA signed by UAE was with India. And since then, UAE-India trade has surged. In the fiscal year 2022-2023, total trade between the two countries hit $84.5 billion. That's a 16% jump from the previous year, according to India's Ministry of Commerce and Industry.
Now, India's exports to the UAE climbed by nearly 12%, rising from $28 billion to $31.3 billion. Now, key sectors driving this growth actually include mineral fuels, electrical machinery, gems and jewelry, automobiles, and beauty products. Now, non-oil trade has become a particular area of focus for both governments.
And from April to December 2024, bilateral trade continued to gain momentum, reaching $71.8 billion. Out of that, non-oil trade accounted for $57.8 billion, reflecting both countries' ambition to hit $100 billion in non-oil trade by 2030, and they're well on track.
Now, by January 2025, overall trade had already grown by over 21%, reaching $80.5 billion. With Sheikh Hamdan in India, the spotlight is now on further deepening cooperation, not just in trade, but also in investment, innovation, and tech. Now, His Highness Sheikh Hamdan also met with India's Defense Minister, Rajnath Singh, and External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar. Now, the meetings highlighted the UAE and India's strategic cooperation in defense and diplomacy, reinforcing shared goals for regional security, economic growth, and deeper bilateral ties. Now, when I take a look at this story, Majid, much more than the fact that there's so much money going in here. There's so much trade that's happening between India and the UAE. I actually see his visit, His Highness Sheikh Hamdan, the Crown Prince of Dubai, as an appreciation for what India has done for the UAE, for what its laborers have done for the UAE, and the amount of Indians in the UAE is actually it's an extremely large amount. And
actually, Indians are the highest nationality in the UAE.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they're nearly.
Do you have a specific number?
There's like a range which everyone quotes. It's between 30 to 35%. But the latest reports that I have read, it's gone up. It's going between 35 to 40 now. So they're a very big majority in the UAE. And that is why I think that this relationship is so cordial as well. Because you have a lot of Indians here. I think Pakistanis are the second most, and then you have Europeans and Bangladeshis, Nepalis, people from Philippines. So yeah, but highest is Indians.
And not only is it the highest, but also the most successful people in the UAE are Indians. You have the founders. You have the founder of GEMS, Sunny Farki. You have Yusuf Ali, who has more than 250 Lulu hypermarket stores across the Middle East. And just very recently, we saw how well his IPO did. We also have Renuka Jaktiani, and we also have Rizwan Sajan. So there's so many successful, Indian billionaires in the UAE, and much more than that. Notice how they all come from different fields. I think that's the most thing that I really appreciate. It's like it's all just different sectors. You know, you have Sunny Varki, schools, education, and then you have Rizwan, who real
the new
estate,
group.
and each one of them, Majid, their stories are so unique.
Yeah.
I think that one thing that I can truly say about Indians, and especially in business, is that I have never seen anyone with more of a resilient spirit, more so than them. Not just resilient, but I also think consistent.
Yeah.
Consistent. They always have this need to be the best, and we see this trend. They are the best, and I specifically find Renuka, the CEO of Landmark Group, I find her story so inspiring because if you don't know Landmark Group, they're who owns Splash, Max, Home Center, and her story for me, it touches such a sweet spot because the company actually became what it was after her husband passed away, Allah yarhamu, and the fact that she, as a woman, was able to take Splash, was able to take Home Center, Max, all very affordable lines of businesses, and make them what they are today.
She actually started all of them. Mickey Jagtiani just started the group. He started with a small store, Mickey Jagtiani, and then eventually a lot of brands were built by Renuka. It's very interesting. So yeah, it's very one of a kind, breaking the glass ceiling and even breaking all the ceilings kind of a story. And yeah, there's Seema Ved also, apparel group. There's a lot of Indians who hold a lot of big places in the retail market, especially.
Yeah, and Majid, with these Indian entrepreneurs, nobody can actually step in and say that this was handed to them. Nobody can step in and say that this was handed to you with a silver spoon, because it was not. With Yusuf Ali, Majid told me. Majid told me the story of how when he actually came to live in the UAE, he was sleeping on top of his uncle's his baqala, so his grocery store, and then you also have Rizwan, who actually apparently grew up in poverty in the streets of Mumbai, and
Sunny
then actually
Varki was selling fruits on the streets of India. His parents were educationists, they came as teachers here back in 70s when there was nothing here, but there was a need for expat schooling in English, and they started teaching. And he went to India. At some point, he had to sell fruit on the streets. But then he came back, he saw the idea, and he grew it into Gems, which is like $1 billion empire, to be honest. They're opening we did that story. They're opening, according to Worth, it was a rich kid school, because the fees is like $200,000 per year.
It was a lot.
Has a helipad in it. So yeah, someday parent would be like, let's take the helicopter, right? So yeah, that's like one of the biggest projects. They've done great. Actually, the very interesting thing is that the leadership of the UAE, they're very thankful. Lulu guy, Yusuf Ali, I think he was the first non-Emirati to win some award. I completely forgot the name of the award, but that was given to him by His Highness, the President himself. Rizwan Sajan is very famous in the real estate circle. Everyone knows that his son is now coming up. His whole family is involved now. There's Anis Sajan. There's a lot of Sajans now. Now it's not only Rizwan Sajan. He actually built something for the whole family.
Yeah, we interviewed Azhar Sajan, and he was really charismatic. But it's that point, actually, Majid, that you just mentioned, that point of family. I have a lot of South Asian friends, and something that I've noticed about them is they really prioritize family. They really care about their families, and they really care about their family units. And sometimes, to me, I just wonder to myself, is that the reason for their success? Is that why they're so motivated to achieve so much? And I say this quite honestly, even when I went to school, Majid, I don't think I've ever met a dumb Indian. I don't think I've ever come.
So you're saying you've never met a dumb Indian, but you've met other dumb people.
I didn't think about that.
That's what it means.
Listen, I didn't think about that, but seriously, it's a really intelligent community.
Even the best comedians in the world, the joke that they make about Indians is that they're super good at maths, super good at computers, and so they're smart in at least those two fields.
No, they're honestly smart at everything. I've truly
I think
also
right now across the Spelling Bee Championships, if I remember, I was part of Spelling Bee very way back, 15 years ago.
Not surprised.
And I remember reading this, that a lot of Indians I think the most spelling bees are worn by Indians. That's the start I read like 15 years ago. And I was like, okay, we Pakistanis need to step up as well. So they're very good at a lot of things. We had this Indian kid on the Love in Dubai show, a math genius of sorts. So we
I
hosted
remember.
that kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, great people. And they're like the biggest number of people on the planet. They've
And they're
beaten
one of the-
China, or they're at
and
least
they're
equal
one,
in the population.
I would genuinely say that they're one of the greatest contributors to the UAE's
Yeah.
economy, right? Especially the workforce.
Biggest real estate investors in the UAE, just remembered. So the most amount of real estate transactions are done by Indians. They're buying houses.
Oh,
So yeah, so they're
wow.
investing money in the form of FDI and real estate as well. It's not just retail businesses. They're literally everywhere.
Oh,
That's the
wow.
good part. But yeah, moving on to numbers and money, Middle East and Gulf stock market saw a partial rebound on Tuesday. Yesterday, the markets opened on Monday. They're a little dubious right now, but thankfully on Tuesday, all the major markets in the Middle East were in green. Egypt's EGX rose 0.64%, good rise after like 2 days of bloodbath. It was at 30,648. Dubai's DFMGI, Dubai Financial Market General Index, jumped 1.9%. Very good jump to close at 4,890. Abu Dhabi's ADX edged up to 0.45. Good rise, half a point, but good, at least in the green. And Saudi's Tadawul climbed nearly 1% to 11,302.
Now, these gains came after Monday's continued slide across regional markets, largely mirroring global sentiment and a plunge in oil prices. Now, Dubai's market fell 3.08% on Monday, led by a 9.42% drop in Talabat and a 2.53% dip in Emaar. Now, Abu Dhabi's ADX also sank 2.59% with Alpha
Dhabi.
Dhabi,
Yeah. They have a
plunging
wordplay on
nearly
Abu Dhabi.
10%.
Saudi Arabia's Tadawul index on Monday, which suffered a 6.7% fall on Sunday because they're open on Sunday, recovered slightly on Monday with 1.05% gain, while big names like Batik Investment lost nearly 10%. Stocks like National Co. for Learning and Kingdom Holding posted strong rebounds. Saudi was actually only market which saw a bloodbath on Friday and
Bloodbath.
Thursday. Yeah, it's called a bloodbath Thursday and Sunday, but they recovered on Monday. It was the only market in green on Monday. But Tuesday, thankfully, all of them were in green.
Now, elsewhere, Egypt's EGX 30 declined 0.61% on Monday, extending its Sunday losses. Now, Qatar's index dipped 0.35%, and Kuwait's premier market fell another 0.64%. Now, the regional downturn came after Sunday's steep sell-off, triggered by falling oil prices and growing fears of a global economic slowdown.
And Sunday marked the sharpest drop since 2020 for many Middle Eastern exchanges as well. Saudi stocks tumbled 6.1%. Qatar and Kuwait saw 5.5% decline. Egypt was down 3.3%. All four markets had been closed Friday because Friday and Saturday is off for Egypt and Saudi. That's the interesting part about the markets here.
Now, leading Sunday's losses was Saudi Aramco, the world's largest oil exporter, which at one point wiped out over $90 billion in market cap. Now, the turmoil underscores investor jitters around global trade tensions, crashing oil prices, and uncertainty ahead of potential OPEC moves and global inflation signals.
Yep. So markets are back in green. A lot of markets have rebounded somehow after losing like nearly 10, 11 points over the years. Even the Asian markets, even the European markets, the American markets, all of them were red. But somehow there is some sort of recovery. But it's not, I won't call it recovery because they've lost so much that now eventually they have to like come back one or 2 points.
I saw this really interesting perspective, Majid, and I really want to know what you think. And basically, someone was saying that Trump's tariffs, Trump's reciprocal tariffs, they're actually an opportunity for a lot of people to build generational wealth that they've never had before and to invest at a time where the stocks are low. What do you think about that?
It's a very common thing in stocks that you buy low, and the only problem with that is that you need to have that much capital. So you need, if you want to build generational wealth or even wealth for your generation, your kids, you need to have that much capital first in place. So you can buy. You can't buy it like 1,000 dirhams. You'll only maybe get 2,000 back. But first, have capital so you can invest. Second, have the capacity to wait out 2-3 years. I think this whole scenario, this whole fiasco will continue till Trump is in power because he's the very word, I'm not using it. What's the name of the publication that said that he's gone crazy? Literally their words. I think it was Washington Post or AP, one of them.
You know, I'm not convinced anymore. I don't think it's crazy.
They said it's crazy
this.
because now billionaires, hedge fund managers, BlackRock's Larry Fink is out. He's saying, bro, what are you doing? Bill Ackman, we talked about him. He started with Israel. Oh, why are you slapping tariffs on Israel? But now he's out for Trump as well. Like, what are you doing? And these are the guys who actually backed him. Like, they were like fine with it. Like, okay, Trump comes, businessman, will help business. So now everyone who saw him as a businessman and thought that he will do good for business, he'll be great for business, they're like, okay, what happened here? Even the Bitcoin ones, Bitcoin people, the Bitcoin bros, the Bitcoin experts, they're like, oh, it's going to hit 1 million, at least 200,000 at the end of this year.
You know
it's down 75,000.
You know what's something else that I saw that was also really interesting? You know, just for all of you to keep in mind, by the way, Tesla is officially opening in Saudi Arabia tomorrow, and people are saying that instead of investing in gold, you should invest in silver. And I know it sounds a bit strange. I'll tell you why. And because I myself was like, why would I do that? And it's because of the fact that they actually need silver to build the batteries for all these electrical vehicles. Now, we've seen the rise of EVs. You know, we've seen it with Geely. We've seen it with Tesla. We've also seen it with
BYD.
Yes,
There's
BYD. There's a lot of electrical vehicles coming up, especially as, you know, the planet is moving towards trying to be more sustainable and use less fossil fuels. But basically, silver, Majid, it's needed to make these batteries. And basically what's going to happen is at some point in the upcoming years that are going to come is that there isn't actually that much silver in the world to accommodate for this. So what will happen is that the price for silver, as the supply does go up in the upcoming years when more people want EVs, the price of silver is going to go up.
Basic supply-demand graph, right?
Yeah, so it would be smart to buy silver. You won't see the return in 5 years, but
again, this is not investment advice. This is just like what we've read and we're
this is just something really interesting. But maybe in 10 years you'll make a lot of money out of that. But you know what excited me? It was the gold part. The fact that gold prices have supposedly gone down.
Finally.
I am so happy about that, Majid. I never thought that it would go down.
I think it's not gone down. People, this is the problem that people just say, it's going up, it's going down. Gold hit historic highs, $3,100, $3,200 per ounce. The problem is that it came down. People are reporting it's down, but it came back to 3,100. It's still expensive to 2,800 or 2,700, which was like November or August last year. So you have to realize that it's still at a very high price. And eventually it will come down when the markets are back. Gold is like a hedge against inflation and market falling down. So yeah, when everything stabilizes, which I don't think is the plan of current US President Donald Trump, then everything will eventually come down to a price. So when something is going up, don't buy. That's the general sentiment in the market. But if something is down, you definitely buy. But there's two main, very big things that you need to keep in mind. One, you should have enough capital. And two, you should have the holding power for at least 2, 3, 4 years.
And I think also
then you
for
build
Muslims,
generational wealth.
Also for Muslims, just be wary of what you're investing into, because in the end of the day, not all corporations are, they're not abiding by actual Islamic standards.
With bonds, you can buy sukuk, Islamic bond. Yeah, the other bonds, I don't know. I've never read the Islamic version, but sukuk came because Sharia compliant. With stock markets, a lot of them have this idea that stock markets are legal and stock markets are halal. So yeah, you can trade in stocks. Otherwise, a lot of Muslim countries won't have stock exchanges. So right now, stock markets are halal. Let's move on to one of the people who hold a lot of money, since we're talking about a lot of money. So Hamburg-based investment group Aquila Group is expanding into the Middle East with a new office in Abu Dhabi. The firm announced on Tuesday that it has launched Aquila Capital Middle East as part of its strategy to tap into growing opportunities across the Gulf and wider Middle East region.
Just for extra context, Hamburg is in Germany.
Yeah.
Now, the new office will focus on deploying capital into strategic sectors such as data centers and renewable energy projects. Now, Aquila Group, which manages assets worth $15.4 billion euros, approximately $17 billion, sees Abu Dhabi as a major gateway for regional growth and long-term investment prospects.
And Zaki Nusseibeh, CEO of Aquila Capital Middle East, said Abu Dhabi was chosen because of its strong business potential. He highlighted that the Emirate offers one of the best environments for expansion, thanks to its proactive regulation and growing appeal to global investors and institutional capital.
Now, the company has received preliminary approval from Abu Dhabi Global Market, ADGM, and is awaiting final clearance, with ADGM becoming a magnet for international firms due to easier licensing and access to sovereign wealth funds. Aquila's move signals growing confidence in the UAE's financial ecosystem.
And we do these stories because it shows that how Abu Dhabi is growing, how Dubai is growing, and how these big companies are setting up offices there.
A lot of foreign investors are coming here.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that they're based in Germany. Just recently, we saw how BlackRock, American-based, also one of the largest asset holders in the world, also opened an office. Asset managers.
Yeah. Holders
also,
are different.
Yeah, also opened an office here
in Abu Dhabi.
In Abu Dhabi. So we're seeing this growing trend of more people wanting, as Majid always likes to put it, get a piece of the cake in the UAE.
The funny thing is, I especially want these AUM stories only because asset managers don't have their own money. They come and manage other people's money, and they see that a lot of capital is here. So they want to come, they want to take that money and manage it for other people. So it's a really interesting idea of asset managers, asset management companies coming here.
And Majid,
a lot of people don't understand it. When we see AUM, the funny thing is, a lot of people say, oh, this much, 50 billion AUM, 1 trillion AUM. But you have to realize, none of that money is that company's money. It's other people's money that they're managing. So that's interesting. If you didn't know, you now know.
I think it's the fact that the UAE is also so small. Recently, obviously, I feel like the UAE is the talk of the media. Like the child who's just like the center of attention. I would say that's the UAE right now. But I think a lot of people forget that, this is not a city. It's a country. And it's this small, and this is the impact that it's had until now. And you see really big cities like London and New York, Majid, and they're not spoken about as much as the UAE is being spoken about. So I think Aquila Group, German Aquila Group, coming here, it's just a further testament to how far the UAE has come. There's a lot of changes going on, and just speaking of changes, Saudi MBC Group has actually just appointed a new CEO.
And former Nine Network CEO Mike Sneesby is heading to Saudi Arabia to take the reins at MBC Group, the largest broadcaster in the Middle East. He will take over as CEO on May 1, marking a significant career move following his departure from Australian media giant Nine in late 2024.
Now, MBC boasts a massive audience, claiming 140 million daily viewers, and operates the region's largest Arabic language streaming platform, Shahid. Now, the group is headquartered in Riyadh and was taken public in early 2024 after the Saudi government secured a majority stake in 2021.
And Sneesby brings past regional experience, having worked in Dubai during the early 2010s. He replaces long-time CEO Sam Barnett, who served 13 years in the top role and over 22 years at MBC. Barnett is now set to lead CME, a media group based in Prague.
Now, Shahid, MBC's flagship streaming service, has 5 million paying subscribers and 18.6 million avid monthly users. Now, it dominates the MENA market, holding a 27% share in SVOD and 46% in AVOD. Now, revenues hit $287 million in 2024, with Ramadan playing a key role in driving seasonal growth.
And despite success, challenges remain. Subscribers dip often follow Ramadan due to free content access. MBC is tackling this by investing in sports rights, launching fast channels, and expanding ad strategies through its media arm, MMS. Ad innovations include native placements, live stream sponsorships, and branded content like Ramadan partnerships.
Now, looking ahead, MBC aims to scale across Egypt, Africa, and new markets with premium Arabic content and smarter ad monetization. Now, Sneesby's new role signals a transformative phase as MBC strengthens its digital dominance and expands its global footprint. And the fast-paced, evolving media landscape that we all live in now. And just to add more extra context for all of you, I believe that the Saudi government owns a 59% stake in the MBC, and that the rest
through Saudi PIF.
Yeah, and the rest is actually owned by Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, the richest man in the Middle East, according to Forbes' new list, actually.
Yeah. It was the first time that Saudi Arabian billionaires were added in this list. Very interesting point.
First time.
After 2017, because in 2017 there's the Ritz-Carlton case where there was a raid on the hotel and a lot of people were picked up by the police, the shurtas, for corruption, and Al-Walid bin Talal was one of them. But he came out of jail after like nearly 3 or 6 months, and then he went to London for some time, and now he's back.
I can't imagine him in jail,
Yeah, you read the Ritz-Carlton
really
fiasco. It's a very great, eye-opening story, but there's a lot of things where there's blank spots. So you don't know the whole story. No one knows the whole story. But yeah, he was one of the people who was caught, because it was not him, it was his company, eventually Kingdom Holding Company, which was caught in the corruption scandal. It's a very big corruption scandal. Read about it. It's very interesting.
I know. I'm just not sure if we're allowed to comment on it.
No, we can comment on it. It happened. But the details after that, no one knows, and we can't comment, we can't speculate on the details, but this happened, and he was part of it. But yeah, after 2017, that is why Forbes was like that, since there's corruption, there's no clarity on the money that these guys hold, so we won't add them to the list. But this is the first time, after 2017, that Saudi billionaires have been added. And there's 7 of them in the list, I think. The most number of billionaires in the Arabic world is in Saudi Arabia.
From what I remember is that first it was Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal. Third was Hussein Sajwani.
No. In the Arab world, third was Hussein Sajwani. But in Saudi billionaires, Al-Walid is the only guy who came back. He's a repetition from the 2016 list. The other all 6 guys are new entrants.
Oh, interesting.
So they were never there in 2016.
Just for context, by the way, he's worth more than $16 billion.
And Hussein Sajwani is now 10 in the Middle East. So third is...
Doubled in just 1 year. I still can't believe that. With
That's
Hussein
what
Sajwani,
you get when you get close to Trump.
Just last year it was at $5 billion, and this year it's at $10 billion. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for tuning into the Smashy Business Show. Make sure to follow us across all social media channels at Smashy Business, and stay ahead with our daily newsletter. You'll find the subscription link in the description.
This has been a Smashy Business Show, a Smashy Business production, part of the Augustus Media Podcast Network. A big shout out to our 1.5 million monthly listeners. We're aiming for the 2 million mark, so if you can help us, just share our podcast with all the people that you know, if you like it, obviously. And thank you for making it possible. See you on Thursday. Take care. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.